Why is a 3,000 watt-hour power station sitting at 40% off right now? I spent 35 years wiring homes and hauling out the backup systems that failed when people needed them most. And when I see a discount that steep on something that's supposed to keep your fridge running in a blackout, my first question isn't, how do I get one? It's, why is nobody buying it? Because sometimes 40% off is a deal, and sometimes it's a warning label with a price tag on it. So today I'm walking you through 12 power stations that nobody wants in 2026, exactly why each one landed in a warehouse instead of a garage, and which two of these discounts are actually worth grabbing. It was January of 2026, and importers across the country were staring down a number they'd been dreading for over a year. The Section 301 tariff on Chinese lithium-ion batteries jumped from 7.5% to 25%, and once you stack the base import duty and the additional trade penalties on top of a typical lithium iron phosphate pack, the real number lands closer to 41%. Some trade analysts expect that combined figure to climb past 58% before this year is out. Every company selling a power station built with Chinese cells watched their cost of goods jump overnight. So in the second half of 2025, they did what any business does when a price hike is coming. They stockpiled. Warehouses in California, Texas, and Ohio filled with pre-tariff inventory that had to move before the higher-cost restocks landed. That's cause one, and it explains why you're seeing deals on units that were perfectly fine last year. Cause two hit at the exact same moment. The 30% federal Section 25D credit for residential battery storage expired December 31st, 2025. Buy before that date, Uncle Sam covered nearly a third of the cost. Buy after, nothing. Demand got pulled forward hard into late 2025 as people rushed to close the deal before the credit disappeared, and the buyers who would have shown up naturally this year simply didn't show up because the thing that would have pushed them off the fence was gone. And cause three is the one this industry doesn't like saying out loud. Storage demand actually dropped. Sunrun, one of the biggest residential solar and storage installers in the country, reported storage capacity installed down 15% in the first quarter of 2026, and new subscriber additions down a full 25%. The EV market told the same story. New electric vehicle sales fell 27% that same quarter, and dealer lots ended up sitting on 130 days of inventory, nearly half again what gas vehicle dealers were carrying. Cox Automotive called it a necessary reset. I'd call it the same correction happening to power stations right now. That's the honest, boring reason behind most of what you're about to see, but not all of it. A handful of these 12 units aren't cheap because the market shifted under them. They're cheap because they earned it, and by the time we get to number 5, you'll understand exactly what I mean. If you're new here, I'm Cal Watts. I installed backup power in homes for over 3 decades, and this channel exists because nobody else will just tell you which brand is actually built to last. Let's get into it. Number 1. The Jackery Explorer 1000 Pro. A solid unit in its day, 1,002 watt-hours of capacity, 1,000 watts continuously with a 2,000 watt surge, and a fast charge time that made it popular with campers and outage preppers alike. The problem is the battery inside it. It's NMC chemistry, not lithium iron phosphate, and NMC cells typically hold up for somewhere around 500 to 1,000 charge cycles before dropping below 80% capacity. Cycle that daily, running your fridge through a string of outages or just using it around the house, and you're looking at maybe a year and a half before it's noticeably weaker. Jackery has quietly pulled the Explorer 1000 Pro from its own site, replaced by the Explorer 1000 version 2 and the Explorer 1000 Plus, both lithium iron phosphate, both rated around 4,000 cycles, which works out closer to 11 years of daily use before the same drop-off. The Plus actually costs about $100 less than the Pro's old street price, while lasting roughly 8 times longer. When your own replacement is cheaper and outlasts you by that margin, that tells you everything about why the old one is gathering dust. Number 2. The Jackery Explorer 1500 and the Explorer 1500 Pro. Same story, bigger battery, heavier unit, officially discontinued. Once Jackery rolled out the Explorer 1500 version 2 and the Explorer 1500 Ultra, both lithium iron phosphate. Worth a note for the accuracy sticklers in the comments, because I know you're checking. An early sibling in this same product family, the original Explorer 1000, had a battery management system issue back in 2022 that triggered a fire risk recall. I'm not telling you the 1500 Pro shares that specific defect because it doesn't, and I won't stretch the facts just to make a scarier point. But it's part of why Jackery moved fast to clear NMC units off the shelf entirely once better cells became affordable. If you spot a 1500 Pro on clearance, you're looking at yesterday's chemistry priced like it still matters. That wasn't even the part that got people angry. Because 2 Jackery units getting phased out for a better chemistry is a footnote, not a warehouse full of unsold inventory. Keep watching. Number 3. The EE Kooi Flow Delta 2 Max. This one stings a bit more because it's actually a good battery, not a corner cutter. 2,048 watt-hours, 2,400 watts continuous lithium iron phosphate, rated for 3,000 cycles. EEKOH Flow discontinued it in July of 2026, and you can find refurbished units on EEKOH Flow's own eBay store for $655 to $849, down from an original price near $1,900. Here's the part that makes accountants at EEKOH Flow uncomfortable. The Delta 3 Max that replaced it starts at $749. Brand new, lighter, faster charging, quieter, with a bigger surge rating than the model it's replacing. The new Flagship costs less than the old Flagship's clearance price. That's not a red flag on the Delta 2 Max, that's just how fast this category moves. It's a warning about paying anything close to full price for last year's Flagship in a market where the replacement already beats it on every spec sheet. Number 4. Goal Zero's entire Yeti X lineup, the 1500X, the 1000X, and the 6000X. All NMC chemistry, all rated around 500 cycles, all currently marked down up to 41% off on Goal Zero's own site, on a page literally titled The Price Drop Collection. The 1500X packs 1516 watt-hours behind a 2000-watt inverter and carries only a 2-year warranty, which tells you the manufacturer isn't exactly betting on longevity either. Compare that to the industry standard on lithium iron phosphate units now, which typically run 5 to 10 years. Goal Zero even suspended sales to Canada until the second quarter of 2026 over logistics, which only piled more unsold stock into U.S. warehouses waiting on a buyer. Old chemistry, short warranty, steep discount, an entire product line stuck in the pipeline. That's not one bad model. That's a company racing to bury a whole generation of hardware. And if you thought old chemistry was the worst thing on this list, that's about to change. Number 5. The Goal Zero Yeti 3000X. Write this one down. In August of 2026, the Consumer Product Safety Commission recalled the Yeti 3000X over a serious risk of fire and burn injury. 46,200 units are affected. The Commission says Goal Zero received 4 separate reports of these power stations catching fire, overheating, or smoking. This unit sold for roughly $3,000 at REI at Costco.com and at Backcountry, built on the same NMC chemistry as the rest of the Yeti X line. 3,032 watt-hours of capacity, rated for around 500 cycles. The remedy right now is a firmware update through the Goal Zero app, not a full replacement, which means if you already own one, you can't just assume it's handled by ignoring it. Go update it. And if you're browsing a clearance rack and see a Yeti 3000X at a steep markdown with no way to confirm the firmware patch has already been applied, walk away. This is exactly why I tell people to check CPSC.gov before buying any second-hand or clearance power station. 30 seconds of searching can keep a fire hazard out of your garage instead of next to your furnace. Number 6. The Bluetti AC200P and the earlier AC200 Max, both discontinued. Bluetti's own website lays out the replacement path plainly, right there for anyone to check. AC200P to AC200L, now to the Elite 200V2. The original AC200P key wasn't a bad unit. 2,000 watt-hours, 2,000 watts continuous, lithium iron phosphate, rated for 3,500 cycles. But it's the classic old Flagship trap. You'd be paying near current prices for a unit 2 generations behind, when the newer version charges faster, weighs less, and lasts longer for close to the same money. There's no shame in buying a discontinued unit if the price reflects it. The problem is when clearance pricing on an old Flagship isn't actually much lower than the new model's regular price, and I see that mistake in the comments section more than almost any other on this channel. People assume discontinued automatically means discount, and sometimes it just means old. Number 7. Bluetti's older EB series, specifically the EB70 and the EB240. The EB70 packs 716 watt-hours behind a 1,000 watt inverter, and the EB240 stuffs 2,400 watt-hours behind that same weak 1,000 watt inverter. That's a lot of stored energy that can't actually push much power out at once, which matters the moment you try running anything with a real motor in it: a sump pump, a window air conditioner, a mini fridge with a hard startup draw. You could have 3 times the capacity of a smaller unit and still watch the same appliance trip the inverter, because capacity and output are 2 completely different numbers. And this is exactly the kind of mix-up that gets a viewer stranded during a storm with a fully charged battery and an appliance that refuses to turn on. Both have been discontinued and replaced by the AC70, the AC50B, and the Elite 30V2, all of which fix that output bottleneck. If you see an EB240 on deep clearance, understand exactly what you're buying. A big battery wired to a small door, which is a fine camping companion and a poor choice for anything you're depending on to run real appliances through a multi-day outage. If you're finding this useful, go ahead and subscribe, because I run through recalls, markups, and reliability data on this stuff every week. And it's the kind of thing you want to know before you buy, not after. Enter the part of this list where the problem stops being outdated batteries and starts being the brands themselves. Number 8. The VTOH MAN Flash Speed 1500, 48 watt-hours, 1,500 watts, continuous with a 3,000 watt peak, lithium iron phosphate, rated for 3,000 cycles. On paper, this looks competitive with anything else on this list. It launched at $1,399, and right now you can find it for $559, over 60% off. But go read the Trustpilot reviews before you get excited about that price. Multiple owners describe units failing within weeks, dropping straight from 80% charge to 0 with no warning, and chargers running hot enough that owners called them a fire hazard in their own words, not mine. VTOH MAN is a sub-brand of glut, And one reviewer who tore down a returned unit found no local authorized repair option for owners at all, meaning if it breaks, you're likely shipping it back to the manufacturer and waiting. And if that were the only red flag with this brand, I'd chalk it up to one rough model having a bad run. But then a second VTOH man unit gave regulators an actual reason to step in. Number 9. The VTOH Man Flash Speed 1000. In June of 2025, this model was rejected at the UK border for a high risk of electric shock because live parts were accessible through the socket outlets, failing basic UK electrical safety standards under BS 1363. That's not a customer complaint buried in a review section. That's a government safety inspector physically stopping a shipment at the port before it ever reached a shelf. Two different models from the same brand, two different failure modes, one in the field and one caught before it even landed. That's not bad luck, that's a pattern with quality control. Number 10. Zendur's Superbase line, the Superbase Pro 2000 and the Superbase 5, also sold as the 4600. The Better Business Bureau and the DIY Solar Forum both have threads full of owners describing units that simply brick, meaning they stop responding entirely. AC output that fails, breakers tripping, and in a few posts, people describing what they call the magic smoke, which, if you've ever worked with electronics, you know that's not a compliment. Replacement stock has been hard to find, support has been slow, and Zendur has no real US-based service network to lean on, so when something fails, you're often mailing a heavy battery overseas and waiting weeks to hear back. One BBB complainant said they were offered $300 back on a unit that cost close to $2,000. That's not a warranty program, that's a brush-off with a customer service script attached. Number 11. The Mango Power E. This one needs a careful word because I don't want to say something I can't back up, and this audience will call me out if I do. The Mango Power E is a genuinely capable unit on paper, 3,533 watt-hours, 3,000 watt, continuous with a 6,000 watt surge, built on CATL cells, the same battery maker that supplies major EV manufacturers. It launched at $4,250, and it's been repeatedly dumped for $899, a 76% cut, over and over across multiple retail events. There are posts on the DIY Solar Forum claiming the company is struggling to pay rent on its warehouse, and complaints on Trustpilot and Energy Sage about dead-on-arrival units and 6-month waits for replacement parts. I want to be straight with you here. I found no bankruptcy filing, no confirmed shutdown, nothing official saying this company is out of business, and they were still shipping orders as recently as December of 2025. So I'm not going to tell you Mango Power is dead because that would be a lie, and this channel doesn't deal in those. What I will tell you is this. A 100-pound battery from a brand showing real financial strain with no confirmed long-term U.S. service presence is a warranty risk, not a bargain, no matter how good the spec sheet looks on paper. Now here's the twist I told you was coming. Number 12. The Anker Solix C1000 first generation. This unit is being cleared out hard right now as Amazon and Anker's own store push out Generation 2 stock to make room. The Generation 2 C1000 hit $429, 46% off its regular $899 price. And the bigger C2000 Generation 2 dropped to $749, half off its $1,500 list price. In May of 2026, Anker officially and permanently cut prices across its entire Solix power station lineup, not a one-time flash sale. Here's the important part. The first generation C1000 isn't a bad unit. It's not recalled. It's not chemistry obsolete. It's lithium iron phosphate, just like its replacement. The story here isn't failure, it's margin. Anchor made a genuinely good product, then made an even better one, and is now clearing out the old stock at a real discount because the newer model does more for less money. If you find a first-generation C1000 marked down and the newer generation isn't meaningfully cheaper per watt-hour, that's one of the few units on this entire list I'd tell you to buy without hesitation. And that's the whole point of walking through all 12 back-to-back. A power station on clearance in 2026 could mean three completely different things. It could mean the chemistry is outdated and the company is racing to bury it, like the Jackery Pro line and the Goal Zero Yeti X lineup. It could mean the brand itself is on shaky ground and you'd be buying a battery with no safety net behind it, like Zendur and Mango Power. It could mean there's an actual safety issue you need to check before you touch it, like the Yeti 3000X recall and the two different Vitomin failure modes. Or it could mean absolutely nothing is wrong. The company just made something better and cheaper, like Anchor did. The discount looks identical on the price tag. The reason behind it is what actually matters, and now you know how to tell the difference before you hand over your money. So if you want a power station that's discounted for the right reason, here's where I'd put my own money. The EcoFlow Delta 3 Plus. 1,024 watt-hours, 1,800 watts continuous, 2,200 watts with X-Boost, a 3,600 watt surge rating, lithium iron phosphate, a 10 millisecond uninterruptible power supply switchover so it barely blinks during an outage, and expandable up to 5,000 watt-hours with add-on battery packs if your needs grow later. It launched at $799, and you can find it around $599 right now, discounted because it's newer and better, not because anyone's trying to unload it before it becomes a liability. For a bigger option, the Bluetti Elite 200 V2. Just over 2,000 watt-hours, 2,200 watts continuous with a 3,900 watt lifting mode for harder startup loads, lithium iron phosphate, rated past 6,000 cycles, and it charges from 0 to 80% in around 50 minutes. It listed at $1,699, and you can find it between $699 and $999 depending on the retailer. Both are UL listed, both lithium iron phosphate, both from brands with an actual US support presence standing behind them. Before you buy any clearance power station, especially anything over 2,000 watt-hours, run the same 3-minute check I'd want my own kid to run. Search the brand and model on CPSC.gov for any open recall. Confirm it actually carries UL certification for this category, which for power stations is UL 2743. And look up whether the brand has a real US-based repair or replacement process, not just a support email that goes unanswered for 6 months. None of that is fear-mongering. It's the same due diligence I did for 35 years before I'd sign off on a system in someone's house. So back to the question I opened with. Why is a 3,000 watt-hour power station sitting at 40% off right now? After walking through all 12 of these, you already know it depends entirely on which one you're looking at. Ask what chemistry is inside it, lithium iron phosphate or the older NMCC. Ask whether the company that made it will still be around in 3 years to honor the warranty. And spend the 30 seconds it takes to check CPSC.gov before you buy anything secondhand or heavily marked down. The tariffs and the dead tax credit created a real glut this year, and buried inside that glut are some genuinely good deals sitting right next to some genuine hazards. The trick was never avoiding the discount. It was knowing which discount you were looking at. If this kept you from making a mistake, subscribe, because I'll keep pulling these lists apart brand by brand so you don't have to guess which markdown is a gift and which one is a warning.